Finally, we are here. The Raised by Stone podcast, episode 1 with Mr. Knight. I refused to do my first episode if it wasn't with you, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
So, Trump is president. Can you believe it?
I kind of saw it coming. I didn't know he was going to win by a landslide like that. But wow, the dollar has really improved. Our rand is a bit at the moment.
Yeah, well, I see that the trannies and child groomers and stuff are throwing hectic tantrums, but
Yeah, it's been pretty funny on TikTok. Yeah,
can you believe that we live in a time where there are Americans who are pissed off they're going to stop killing babies? It's like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's insane. I mean, I started feeling guilty watching porn. Like, every time you watch a creep pie, you think to yourself, is that another abortion? Like, what the hell's going on there?
well, what do they always say? My body, my rules, or whatever.
My body, my choice, or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Well, look, they're doing big investigations into that as well, eh? Because apparently they didn't handle those abortions too too ethically.
You know what the scary part is? I saw a guy making um a speech, and he's like, he was in tears, and he even had a name for his daughter. His wife just ran off and got an abortion behind his back when he promised him not to. She promised him not to, and
Yeah.
it seems like he did some deep searching and stuff like that. And it seems like they do these things for free, and it's a bit of a mystery what happens to the babies after that. But it sounds like maybe body parts and stuff like that get sold off, and stem cell research and all sorts of sick shit. You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I'm seeing more and more of these YouTube clips coming up about people who've had successful treatments with stem cells and stuff, and that only comes from one place.
Really? That's insane, bro. But anyway, it's quite interesting. Like, just looking at what people are predicting is gonna happen to the economy. I saw, even um, the South African Reserve Bank and the Fed Reserve are like reconsidering interest rate cuts and inflation, and they're predicting a lot of inflation under Trump for the first 2 years or maybe more. Um, but you never know with these leftists what to believe or what not to believe. So I think we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that article this morning as well, actually, where they're saying that the reserve banks are going to change their mind on how they tackle um, our interest rate drops. So I was very optimistic that we were going to get a 50 basis point cut, but now we're going to get a 25. But I don't think in this rate cycle drop we're going to get like the full 2%, which I originally thought. But yeah, we're probably going to do like a 1% drop because we need it at the end of the day. Like things are so expensive here.
Well, Trump's talking a lot about tariffs and stuff, and there might be. I won't be surprised if they place a few tariffs on South Africa. Um, as almost, I think, the way we handled the Israel situation. Um, I think we were pretty neutral with Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, look, we say we neutral, but being close to the ocean, there was a couple of Russian boats that stopped here, over the years. So I think it's a bit of a facade.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, I don't think you should just because. I mean, I was watching a Joe Rogan show now again the other day, and it's probably the third or the fourth time now that I've heard. I posted a video on TikTok, and they actually removed it. as misinformation or something like that. And once again, they even showed the politicians who said it um, that Ukraine's sitting on like 12.4 trillion rands worth of natural resources and gas and minerals, and it's one of the most wealthiest countries in Europe. Well,
Yeah.
and they don't want Russia to have all that wealth, so that they're trying to do like a takeover there. That's what it sounds like, and you know, I don't see why we need to get behind that. Um, Even the Republicans are against that, you know. So, but besides that, even what are the fucking chances South Africa is going to supply Russia with weapons, bro?
Jeez, I think after that arms deal that Zuma was allegedly involved in, I don't think we have any arms left. Like our military's in a sorry state. Our gangsters
I
have
think so.
more weapons and better weapons than our police force and our army force.
It is true. Yeah, I was just finding out today with the interest rate stuff, what's going to happen. Um, even the Fed Reserve, um, they want to be at a 3.6% interest rate by the end of 2026. It's but yeah, if tariffs go up, obviously things are going to be a bit more expensive in the United States for a while. The consumer's going to have to pay their tariff, but I also think that the supplier who exports is going to have to rather drop his price, make a little bit of less profit, because if you don't, your product's going to be unaffordable.
Yeah, no, you're right. Um,
So
I'm not sure exactly what South Africa actually exports to America at this stage.
we actually even don't we export a lot of things to 6,400 products. We in textiles, cars, um, obviously agriculture like citrus and all that kind of stuff. But we have a huge but we've got free entry. We don't pay Our guys don't pay taxes or levies or tariffs, and it's all about building the African economy.
Mm,
I'm struggling to find the word for it now. We'll get to it probably a bit later, but yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff that we export to there. Actually, they call it duty-free access under the African growth.
oh, okay, yeah.
So I actually did a bit of research on that today, just because I was curious about like what the hell this what effects is going to have on us, right? So the South African Reserve Bank's nervous because our rand's now getting a little bit weaker.
Yeah.
They're also worried about inflation, but I don't think you know how I think Trump's going to tackle inflation, even if they do drop the interest rates, because he wants to replace the head of the Fed as well by 2026.
Mm,
So the Fed Reserve's also going to get a new guy. Everybody's worried like he's corrupted by Trump and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't really matter. Um, but the one thing Trump's going to do to lower inflation is he's going to drill for oil. If their fuel prices halve over the next year or two, which I mean, it did more or less double on their side, depending on what
mm,
state you are. Inflation is going to come down. It's going to bring down production costs, transport costs, shipping costs, you name it. It's all going to come down a lot. Because yeah, they did kind of screw up with their oil, all this unrest in Russia. If he can sort Russia and Ukraine out, and there's no more sanctions on Russia, if he can do stop the sanction, I think the interest rates will come down anyway, and we'll have inflation coming down too.
yeah. No, you're
And
100% right.
what a lot of people are saying is that even if when inflation does come down and our prices start coming down, people aren't going to be pushing so hard for salary increases.
Mm.
because it seems like a lot of people blame their bosses that they're not getting to the end of the month on their salaries, but they don't keep in mind the interest rate hikes, the electricity hikes, the inflation and stuff, the food inflation, all of that makes a huge impact on your budget at the end of the month.
Oh, absolutely. And like the consumer has all these increase in expenses, so does the businesses at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they're still making it through and still able to pay their little increases every year. So yeah, we're all in the same boat, you know. Right now in South Africa, there's no one really making a lot of money at this stage.
Yeah, that is also true. That is true,
Yeah.
man. And it's but what do you think? Do you think we're going to get a nice drop this month?
Yeah. On the 24th, I was very hopeful that we would get that 50 basis points drop, but yeah, now I'm thinking more 25.
So you do think we're going to get a drop at least?
Well, look, we have to because our inflation's so damn low at this stage.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like Trump's going to be inaugurated before January, so but I for once, I won't be surprised if they do if they do decide to just keep it at what it is now.
Yeah.
And that's a very conservative, man. It's almost like they look for more reasons to keep it the same or take it up than what they do to bring it down. But one thing they are very afraid of is inflation, especially if tariffs are going to go up or stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, look, what is our inflation at the moment? Sorry, I forgot the last stats, but I think it was 3.9%
It's
or
just above. I think it's just above 3%. It dipped just below 3% the other day. Oh, I mean 4%.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Current inflation. Uh, let's say 3.8%, which is
That's
fantastic. It's zero point 0.7 below what they wanted. Maybe they will drop it. I think they've got no excuse not to drop it at that if it's that low.
yeah. It looks like they're just a bit worried because Trump won. It looks like the whole world was actually hoping for Kamala to take the presidency.
Mm. Oh, I don't. Can you imagine if she won, bro?
Yeah, look,
We
she
would have
was
been building nuclear bunkers
yeah,
to hide from the storm.
yeah. I think this war would have exploded. But at the same time, you never know. But let's be honest, the Democrats they make their money off war mostly and pharmaceutical. So yeah, they would, America's economy would have probably benefited a bit more. But Trump's approach is different. You know, he's anti-war. They were saying the other day he was the president in the last what was it like 6 terms or something. He was the only president where there wasn't any wars in the world when he was in as president.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a good. He was. Look, I mean, but if you look at how things played out from him losing the elections to them trying to nail him for so as long as they did, uh, the pain of losing the election, and he believes it was stolen. Um, he's had like 4 years to not only plot his revenge, but to just dismantle this system they have. Because I'm almost like
Mm,
at the point where I don't even talk about Americans anymore. I talk about Americans and Democrats because
yeah.
I think a lot of people will hate America because of what happened this last 2, 3, 4 years, maybe even before, like when COVID started. I mean, it was the U.S. government who was basically forcing social media to censor everyone.
Mhm.
All the narratives that they had to give us with vaccines and people getting sick, the virus, keeping us locked up in our houses. Like people are pissed off about that, man. And especially now this thing with Russia and how it was handled, especially if you followed it before the war actually started. I mean, But it's good to see that the world isn't as stupid as we used to be. You kind of like see through the bullshit now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that war in Russia, like, it actually started in 2013. Like, a lot
It
of
was
people forget
supposed
that.
to, I think, yeah, I think that was supposed to be full blown war in 2016, 2017,
Mm,
but Trump threw a spanner in that whole works stream.
yeah, no, for sure.
I think that's why Putin appreciated Trump as much as he did or does. Um, because isn't it funny though? Hamas, like basically, unless it's fake news, I don't think so. No, it's not. Hamas basically said they wanted peace. They don't want to fuck around anymore. Russia's willing to talk. Zelensky, we knew even before the elections, he knew Trump was going to win. He already
Yeah.
went to the States a month before. Um, but it's interesting. Just I like to see what's coming. And I've been doing a lot of reading about you know what people are predicting, what people are like kind of bracing themselves because I don't think Trump is actually going to enforce tariffs. He's basically going to make a speech one day. He's going to say that he um, had a chat with China and, they've made a deal. They made a very good deal, a beautiful deal. And China's not going to be screwing us over, giving us a terrible deal. We're just going to, you know what I mean? He's going to iron out whatever he wants to iron out. And if you don't do what he says, you're going to get tariffs. But what a
Well,
lot
look,
of people are saying, but you've got to remember that other countries can put tariffs on you too.
no, for
It's
sure.
not like
But
rock
look,
on your street and then
I saw in one of his speeches recently, like he's going after the electric vehicle market quite hectically. So that's where he wants to penalize China. He wants to ban it in America because obviously him and Musk are buddies. So he's saying buy Tesla. Don't get these Chinese cars.
well, I mean, look, Tesla is, I think they've built themselves a brand of not only electric and saving the planet, but it's a product that really has it's a high quality product, and it's really its money's worth. It's a status symbol. Whereas with Chinese cars, I think they'll struggle in the United States on the niche market, on the niche side. But I mean, already Toyota, the day Trump won, they scrapped their electric cars. Like they're not going to be doing that shit anymore. Um, I just hope AMG doesn't bring another SL out with a bloody 2 liter engine in it. Like really,
Look, that
the
comes
SL
down
must be
to
like a huge motor.
that's honestly just European regulation with emissions and all that. They're not allowed to produce these V12s, V10s, or even V8s at this stage. So I think it's actually going to get smaller. Like in the future, I think a V6 will probably be the biggest we're ever going to see again.
Yeah. I was also watching. I think it was either Patrick Bet David or it was probably a can't remember who it was, but apparently these guys who are these climate crisis guys, they are the ones who make the most money out of the renewable business, the mining for the batteries and the this and the that. They literally
Yeah.
donated $50 million to Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
and I mean Germany basically with their judgmental little statements and everything and these expectations. They're building more coal plants now than anybody else. Germany is one of the most polluted places on earth. I think they're rated over 160 on the 0 to whatever. They are the
Mm.
worst, especially after they deal with Russia fell through with the gas because then they had to burn all sorts of nonsense just to keep the lights on. But I'm hoping that if Donald Trump scraps this whole new climate crisis thing and the renewables and solar. I mean, it's nice to have as an add-on, but also it's really restricted South Africa in having in building their own little plots. You know, if it's coal or whatever we need to do, we can maybe just say, listen, we're going to go coal, and everybody's going to say no props. Just sort out that coal mafia guys in the Eskom mafia, you know, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, look, thinking about it, what you're saying as well, if you look at all the renewable energy initiatives here in the Western Cape, like all these wind turbine farms that's coming up and stuff now, I'm starting to see lots of trends between the DA and the Democrats actually. Yeah.
Dude, it pisses me off. The DA with this. I mean, I actually looked for tweets on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it here. But you know, what is the John Steenhuisen on Trump? And John Steenhuisen hates Trump, bro. Um, and I just wonder, like, if you are seriously taking yourself seriously as the next president of this country, and you're the, you know, why would you criticize Donald Trump or any guy who's running for an election?
It doesn't make sense. It's like
You know why?
the egos
Because
have
he knows
just,
he's a fucking loser. He'll never be president. That's what he knows. If he really believed in himself, he'd be saying nice things, congratulating someone on Twitter, or you know what I mean.
yeah,
Um, but it pisses me off, dude, because you can see already like this transgender shit came to Cape Town. There's a school in Somerset West. They're like fighting these legal battles with these psycho parents who want I think they want their daughter or something to share a bathroom with the boys.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, bro. Like, are you fucking high? Like, why would you want that for your daughter? Why would you want to? Why would you want to enforce that shit on other parents? You know.
If
So,
your daughter's even
um,
good at sport, like how do you encourage her to keep on going, keep on playing when she's competing against boys? You know,
yeah.
that's boys.
You know what's the sad part? Like for me, you know, I've always been very close with the gay community. Not always. Like I've lost touch a bit, right? But not because I don't like them. But I used to work in a gay bar for 2 years, right? I made a ton of money, a topless barman at a gay bar. And I think this LGBTQ thing with all these trannies and cross dressers and grooming children in school and like doing these drag shows for them and like dressed inappropriately, you know, all that shit, bro. It was like on its way here. They literally want to, and I'm like, screw that shit, bro. And I'm so happy that the one thing, even if the economy goes to shit, and even if things are not so lacquer for 2 years or 3 years while it gets reset, because there's a lot of money that the United States lost, a lot, bro. So it's not going to come right overnight, but I just I just hope to see that in the future, like there are like the gay community says that, you know what, listen, you trannies and you cross dressers, you can have your LGBTQ. We'll go back to just being the gay community. Remember when they were just the gay community? Pink money, they always had nice cars, awesome hairstyles, built better than us. Everybody was always like, why are gay guys always so good looking? Maybe they still are in South Africa, but you look at them now and you think to yourself, what the fuck? That's not what I remember the gay community being like. Like, I remember the day we even legalized them getting married. I don't know anybody had a problem with it, you know? Anyway, I'm just happy that shit's over, boo. We can literally like tell people now just to get.
Well, let's see, because yeah, Western Cape is heavy DA influenced, so I think in the rest of the country will be all right. But yeah, you have to be careful for a bit what you're gonna say.
But why the Democrats? Is it because they are the Democratic Alliance? Is it because the words are the same? Um, any country that gets any help from America is basically screwed Uh, I mean, look at what Obama did to Libya. I mean, fair enough. You say Gaddafi was this hectic dictator guy, and when people had a riot or whatever, a few riots, he dealt with it quite violently. Apparently, he tortured people. But I mean, I didn't see them do that to the South African government when we were torturing black people and shooting them up in the streets. They didn't come and blow up our military system and basically cripple our economy. They didn't give a
Yep.
fuck because we didn't say like Gaddafi said he's going to unify Africa and create the United States of Africa, have an African currency, and they wanted to do away with the dollar and have a gold-backed currency. Is that's what it feels like, and it's quite sad that Obama, well, Hillary called the shots apparently, but Obama was the one who was responsible for so much damage in Africa, bro. Like,
Yeah.
is that the only reason they made him president? It just looks better on paper. He could have
Honestly,
given us, right?
Obama, at the end of the day, he was a puppet. You know, he was America's first black president. It was a whole showpiece. So what he really stood for, no one actually knows
What he?
what he actually stood for.
Obamacare. Um, he had a lot of like, I mean, the damage he made to Libya, but everybody was getting free houses, free education, free, bro. But if you wanted to go study overseas, you could go. Free medical care, and from the oil, they're very rich in oil. Everybody got an allowance from the oil they pulled out of the earth.
Yeah, it's a communist setup. You know, everyone's kind of equal.
Well, I mean, yeah. Now, see, look, call it what you will. Whether he was a tyrant, I don't think so. He had an army of only 70,000 people. That doesn't sound like a tyrant who wants to take over the world to me.
No,
He had a lot of influence, a lot of power, a lot of power. And he was very close to Nelson Mandela and I think more Zuma than Mbeki. I don't know about him, Thabo Mbeki, but um, I kind of sometimes wonder, like, what goes through our politicians' heads when they took him out? Like, how did they handle it? Because they were very close to him. They kind of loved
yeah,
the guy.
yeah. Look, he was the last freedom fighter, I guess. They put him in the class of Che Guevara, um, and who was the other guy? There was another guy that they compare him to, but he was a communist. Like he wasn't okay.
Or Saddam Hussein.
It was the guy in Cuba or Costa Rica, one of those places.
Oh, Castro. Yes. Well, the Cuban guy was the I know was the drug dealer.
Oh, Pablo Escobar. Maybe I'm thinking of him.
Yeah, but he also tried his hand at politics, but it didn't work out for him very well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like to this day, um, like he's regarded a hero because he did so much for his community.
He did. He did, and he buried a ton of money that they still haven't found till today, like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yet his children and family is all billionaires.
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe, maybe. I think they confiscated everything he did, unless they knew where money was. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. It's quite
like
an
who's
interesting
that?
guy, though. I read his book. I read the book that his brother wrote about him.
Yeah,
Very interesting guy. How they got away from the cops, all that kind of stuff. Very interesting. And it
yeah,
wasn't written from the viewpoint that he was a bad person. It was written by his brother, so it was kind of written as Pablo Escobar, a hero. The nice guy. But you have to keep in mind while you're reading the guy was a drug dealer. He did like shoot people for nothing or kill, not personally, apparently didn't kill one person himself, according to the book. He always had someone do it for him. And it
Yeah.
seems like that kind of like swayed his brother, like at least he didn't do it himself, you know?
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's like
But
other
most
somebody else
leaders,
to do it, and if they refuse, they were also gone. But at least he didn't like off
but
none of
most
it
leaders
himself.
never do the dirty work.
Yeah. But an interesting guy, very genius. I mean, the thing is, he still had very good business skills. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, if even the guys who just picked up the stuff, or just had to go drop money off, he had like thousands of people working for him, and he knew every single person's name, their kids' names, where they went to school. He'd send money for the kids. Like he always made an effort to make people feel special. So it was an interesting guy. He still had that business sense about him.
Look, that could have also been a form of intimidation. Eh?
I
Like,
was thinking the same thing. Like, I wouldn't want that guy to know who my kids are.
exactly where they go to school.
I don't care how much money you give me. I'll give him the wrong names
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You don't want a gangster to know anything about you.
as little as possible. As
Mm.
little as possible. So, yeah, I see. I was doing a thing the other day. I see the immigration stats are up again.
Yeah.
People are they are. I just wonder, but what happens to these towns where people are semi-grating from? Because they're basically semi-grating to two places. Three, well, okay, let's say three. But the first, the place where people are semi-grating the most to is Joburg. Second is Cape Town. Third is KZN, right? But you have people moving for very different reasons, though. For instance, more than half of the Northwest is unemployed.
Yeah,
Insane
it's
figure.
scary.
I was actually looking, right?
That's actually scary.
It's scary, brother. I mean, um, it's very scary. I mean, the insane thing for me about it all is the infrastructures are fucked. I actually did a TikTok yesterday. Uh, we lose about 50% of our water almost. Not exactly 50%. I think it was like, I think I still have the piece of paper here somewhere. Um, where did I put it?
Should I put the light on?
Right?
Should I put my light on?
No, I can't find it now. Right?
Should I put my light on quickly?
Can you what?
My light. Should I put it on?
Yeah, yeah, put it on quickly, brother. I saw it's getting a bit dark, so that's why you on my phone.
Yeah. Is that better?
Is it? Oh, that's much better, bro. I thought
I thought so.
you had load shedding. I
Mhm.
beg your pardon?
Yeah, look, it gets darker pretty quick when the sun sets by the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. Where were we now?
Semigration.
Semigration, yeah. Yeah, it's quite scary because Eastern Cape. I have a friend. He moved to the Eastern Cape 6 months ago. He basically called me last week and he said, "Brother, how do I get into real estate? I've lost everything." I thought to myself, "Oh God, that's the last time in your life. That's the last time you should be getting into real estate, especially in PE in the Eastern Cape. I mean, what a 49.7% unemployment rate the last time I checked. Literally half the people are unemployed. The Western Cape's unemployment dipped to below 20%. I think the Western Cape's unemployment rate's 19.7%.
Yeah. No, look, real estate is for people that have some money saved up. Like you need at least, in today's times, I'd say like a year's amount of money saved before you should actually get into it. Because, we've both been there, getting into the markets, it's tough. And especially Eastern Cape.
Listen, if people ask me to get into how if they should get into, I say stay away. The industry is brutal at the moment. It's just a nightmare out there, bro. I mean, the only reason we did so well this year is because we do bulk sales and big deals with like big dogs.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you look how the market is for what buyers can afford right now, the guys that are earning 100K a month, they can buy a house in the 2 millions now, dude. Like 100K salary is getting to the point where it's almost nothing. Well, especially here in Cape Town. The rest of the country, you're right, but things are getting crazy expensive there.
Can you imagine what I mean? We live in two worlds at the moment. I was having a chat with somebody the other day, and I said we might be in big trouble here because half the country is complaining they're unemployed, and the other half is complaining that their bosses are fucking them over. They're not getting enough money. Their salaries
Yeah,
aren't high enough. So I almost want to say, like, listen, brother, if you are really that good at your job and you're worth your salary, right? And you're complaining on TikTok about a 28 or a 25,000 rand salary or whatever. If you're really that good and your boss is screwing you over, why aren't you getting job offers? Where are all those? I mean, if you are performing if you're hitting above your weight, people are going to try and get you. You're not going to
yeah.
sit unemployed, or you will, don't quit your job. But I mean, if you put your CV out there, you start looking for other work, or if you really are that good, or you have then you'll probably be able to convince your boss, like, listen, I just got another job offer. They're offering me double what you're offering me. You've been screwing me over for years. If your boss says, okay, well, cool, I'll pay whatever you want me to pay to keep you, then okay, you're that good. But I never understand how people can complain about their salaries, or maybe we can look at it this way. Remember the days when if your boss was a dick, you could just pack your bags, like when we were young, and you find a new job. Or you take 2 days off, go for a few interviews, and get a better salary. Off you go. Then 2 months later, because you're young, you realize, oh fuck, I never calculated I'm going to be using more petrol. I'm actually making less money. Or you got some sort of perk that you didn't consider at the other place. So that's how you learn with life, I guess. But I wonder if that's also why people are so depressed, man. They don't have options. Like if you're not happy where you work, it's almost like a prison sentence because you the odds. If I mean, if you're living in Northwest, for instance, and your boss is underpaying you or blah blah blah, whatever the case may be, if you resign, you've got literally like a 40% chance of getting a job again. The unemployment rate is like 57% the last time I checked.
Bro, you know what? And also, what people don't realize is if you want a better job, find one while you have your current job. Like, don't quit and then look for a job because it's just the way it works. But opportunities will always present themselves to you that way. If you quit your job and
Yeah,
you're looking for some work, it's extremely difficult.
yeah. I mean, that's also why I think people are moving from Eastern Cape, Limpopo, the Northwest, even from Natal. They are streaming to Gauteng,
Mm.
and they are moving there because properties are cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, the average price for a property in Gauteng is 1.2 million. Half of the properties they sold, Mr. Knight, is under 700,000 rand.
Where in Cape Town can you get that?
Well, one of the top five highest selling provinces, we are fifth. Delft is one of the highest selling suburbs in terms of quantity in the country.
Yeah,
So I guess in Delft.
yeah,
And again, people who come here from Joburg or Natal, those are usually the wealthy people. That's why I always make fun of people in Gauteng when I say, yo, you know, politicians with makaka because we get all your rich people. I mean, our best performing market in Cape Town is between, I think, 4 million and 16 mil. Somerset West, daar waar al die ryk mense, there where all the rich people live.
yeah,
So it's, and then the other place people are going to is Belito. Also, daar waar die ryk mense bly. If you don't like the Cape Town weather, you can go to Natal and sweat like a farm animal all year because it's never cools down there. I think
yeah,
I'd rather live here where it's like, a little bit it cools down in the evening, there's a nice breeze blowing. It's just lekker.
yeah.
But I
Look,
think we
it's
lost a lot of people with this rain. Apparently a lot of volleys just went can't anymore with this rain. Eh? It's cold, it's wet all the time. But I mean,
yeah. That was the most hardcore rain we've experienced in what, the last 10 years. So it's not like it happens every year. Like some years we beg for the rain. This last 2 years have just been very wet.
weird thing is, I don't know if you saw my piece the other day on TikTok. Even though our dams are full, we are not going to have enough water. What the hell? Like, there's obviously also infrastructure problems. Um, Stuff like that annoys me, bro.
There's too many people here in Cape Town. That's why our vacancy rates also, they what, 1 point something percent at the moment?
Yeah, I actually did a study on it today just to check. What was it? I was doing some. It was actually I was actually doing some research on Airbnb. So, Eastern Cape's vacancy rate increased from 9.4% to 12.97. KwaZulu-Natal, oh my gosh, 11.2% vacancy rate, what it used to be. It's now 17.61%.
I heard something
Uh,
about there might be riots again in Durban. So I think that's also got an influence on it.
maybe, but I mean, KwaZulu-Natal, those looting and stuff they had. If it wasn't for the investors in Belito, in KwaZulu, they were going to build four malls, huge malls, right? And they took a chance and they went on with it. If those investors pulled out, they said, "Fuck it, we're going to go build in Cape Town or whatever." Finished, bro. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think they would have recovered from that. Just the fact, but you see, once again, you ask like, why did the cops just let it happen? Why did they not, you know, like, it's the same with Gaddafi. Like when people were doing that kind of stuff, like Julius Malema kind of parties, um, they were basically funded by the US. So if we do get violent towards people, we'll open the door for foreign interference. Bro. That's why I say if the EFF goes and toys at the schools again, we must rock up there in our numbers. If they do anything to us, anything, but there'll be more drama for those guys and they know what to do with. I'm not talking about white people, I'm talking about parents.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To our schools again, we must just pull out there in our numbers. They've got no business as politicians intimidating our children, bro.
No, of course not. Especially disrupting schools. That was
Yeah. And as
horrible.
parents, if you don't know your power until you know what's happened to other African countries for discriminating against their people or being hard-handed or like being aggressive, like if the EFF ever ever becomes violent during a protest, or they go to our schools and it'll and someone gets hurt, like someone dies or ends up in hospital and it's all over the news. I think after this whole Israel Palestine thing, I think when Trump was gone, everybody got very cocky, bro, because
Mm.
the Democrats. I mean, I think everybody got very cocky. I mean, do you think Hamas would ever have attacked Israel if Trump was there?
No, definitely not.
Right?
Definitely
So
not.
yeah, I think now that the big boss is back, and it's not just us, but I do think we're going to hurt somehow, bro. And I think how he's going to get us is I don't think we're going to have free access to the European and American markets anymore. They're going to put tariffs on us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know what? We did it to ourselves. I actually did some research. Like, what do we have to do to stay eligible, and why would they take it away from us, right? So we're basically failing in every single criteria for to be part of this thing. So we must meet a specific criteria related to political stability. Okay, the GNU is stable. We can say on face value it's stable. Tshwane is not stable. Tshwane is not. Gauteng is not stable. There's no water. There's no schools. They've run the schools into the ground to the extent where they've got to force Afrikaans schools to be overpopulated, too many children. They're going to have to force schools to change their languages to accommodate the total destruction of our education system. Let's not even get into law enforcement, safety, crime, murder, farm murders, mocking farm murders, mocking farmers by singing "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." Like that's all stuff that hurts us for free trade. But I don't think they really care about that kind of stuff until it happens. Because I'm sure there's still guys who export textile. It's not just about that kind of stuff. Um, and then economic reforms. Would you say economic reforms are going to keep us in or out of the duty free access? Would you say the
Yeah.
economic reforms is right?
Look,
What must other countries think about us? But if they hear that one of our provinces has like a way over a 50% unemployment rate.
look, it doesn't look good for us at the end of the day. But at the same time, like we all have to just remember we are a third world country, you know? We're not a first world country. It's going to take a lot for us to get there.
I don't know. Maybe, but I mean, we're on our way to a fourth world country,
Exactly.
if that even
And
exists. But eh?
what I don't understand as well with that, the way Cape Town is run, they're trying to run this thing like we a first world country. We're becoming almost like a nanny state like Australia, and it makes no sense at all.
What do you mean a nanny state?
It's just overregulated with everything you can and can't do.
Yeah, yeah. That if that is why Donald Trump also got Elon now to trim things down, but it's way too much red tape. It costs way too much. Like for instance, it was talking about the very thing we struggle with, right? If you want to build a mall or you want to build a development in affordable housing and all that shit, okay? Then you have to do the environmental tests. And if you don't suck that cock balls deep and he doesn't like you for some reason, he can drag that thing out. He can just be a total dick about it, about a small little flower that's like this or that, like And everybody's like, you know what? Screw that. What's more important? Like building houses for people to bring down the real estate prices. Because the problem is it's supply and demand. If you don't build enough houses, and we're trying our best, I mean, we're trying our best to sell these huge pieces of land, but it's getting to the point now where developers refuse to buy land unless it's already zoned and the whoever's selling it has already gone through all that hassle. I mean, if we are really in a housing crisis, okay, we're in an unemployment crisis. There's so many benefits that will actually help human beings instead of, I'm not saying be destructive to the environment, but I'm just saying, like, what do you care about more? Do you care about homelessness, property prices going up, all these? And like you say, yeah, a lot of these things are overregulated, and I don't think it needs to be. We can't go. I like it, however, that they do decide what types of what suits the environment. What,
Mm.
yeah, for instance, you're not going to put a Tiger Wheels and tire right next to a house or a flat or unless it's a mixed use building or something like that. But I do agree there needs to be rules and it needs to make sense. But it's if it gets to the point where developers don't want to build anymore, or they don't want to buy land, even though it's a good deal, they don't want to buy land anymore that's not zoned. I mean, that tells you we need to do something. Something needs to something needs to change, brother.
Like, as you were saying, there's so many holes you have to jump over to get through that entire process. Basically, all the criteria you have to meet with the different departments. And one of also the biggest issues is there's not enough people employed by council to fulfill these roles. You know, like when last did you go to a municipal office?
Long ago,
They are in
I avoid
complete,
I avoid those.
they're in disrepute right now. Like literally, like during the whole load shedding saga, when it was load shedding, everyone in the municipality goes offline. They basically send them home in time to come back afterwards. They do not work. It's absolutely insane. I think this year was the first year that the municipal workers that were sent home for COVID to work from home, it's the first time that they're back in office. And it was ridiculous. They sent, like, for instance, building inspectors. Why did they make them work from home when their job is like 24/7 on the road? And also, why did they set their times for work between like 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon? Like, come on, they're getting paid full salaries, but they don't work full days. Like, it makes absolutely no sense what's going on right now.
People don't semi-grade here to find work, even though they should maybe because the unemployment rate's like 19.7%. It's like under 20%.
Mm.
Um, Joburg's infrastructure is not well. Water situation's not well. They owe Eskom like 5 billion rand.
I saw
City of
that.
Cape Town owes Eskom nothing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think people who are really desperate and they can buy maybe a 700,000 rand house or less. Maybe they can buy something for 1.2 ish. Those are the people who semi-grade to. That's not me saying that. That's what the stats say. But we are lucky here because we get all the rich people, and it's not white people. It's not. It's all races who semi-grade here.
But
Um,
define a rich person now. Because honestly, to me, I would consider you being, well, I did consider you being well off if you're earning around 60K a month. But nowadays, 60K doesn't get you anywhere.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but with a 60,000 rand salary 3 years ago, you could buy a 3 million rand house.
Yes, you're 100% right. And now you can buy 1.9, 1.8 million rand house.
Yeah, literally. But I think yeah, I mean, there was 7, 14, 21. You could actually buy a 4 million rand house if you were really stupid.
Well, look, those people that bought those 3 million rand houses then, those properties have gone so crazy in value they can get 4 million for them, you know?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Because if you think about it, if you bought a 60K salary, let's quickly work it out. If you bought a house for 60K, oh sorry, 3 mil, that's a 21,000 rand bond, right? And in order to qualify for that, you need to earn about 63.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So today, if you want to buy a 3 million rand house, you're gonna have to earn about what, 34,000.
Um, you'd have to earn about 100.
You're gonna have to earn 92,000 rand a month.
Yeah.
And
And
then you
just
got to
think
pay
about it.
insurance on top of that. Hey?
If you're earning in that bracket, just remember you're paying like what, 40% tax? So you're taking home
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
50K? 55, 58?
50K. That's what you take home.
And then you have to pay for your kids for school, your car,
What?
your house.
We're lucky we get tax incentives because we earn commission only. Can you
Yeah.
imagine what it feels like earning 100K a month, being taxed 50,000 rand to a government that's failing you?
You don't
Like,
see where your
it's
money is
not
actually going.
fair, bro. Like, you know what? It's not fucking fair. Do you know what corruption costs us, the country? Do you know how much corruption costs us?
Trillions.
So, eh?
Trillions.
Yeah, trillions. My, anything between like Cyril Ramaphosa after Jacob Zuma's stint. Now, I'm not saying this is how much money was stolen, but I think with all the court cases and the Zondo Commission and blah blah blah, from 2014 till 2019, cost us
Yeah.
1.5 trillion. That's how much we
Wow.
lost, brother. Trillion. A school, to build a school, Matt, costs, I think it costs about 60 bar,
Yeah.
right? And they can host 750 to 1,000 kids, right? So let's just say we could have used 500 billion to build schools, right? All these bloody fucking racist politicians, instead of putting the money in their pockets, we could have put it into schools. Divided by 60 million, that's 833 schools times 1,000 children. That's schools for 133,000 children and 333. Almost a million children's education was stolen. We used a third of that money, brother. Just a
Yeah.
third of that money. That's not
Yeah.
fair,
Look,
bro. It's not fair. These fuckers who stole so much, bro. We're not even calculating here what the ESCOM mafia cost the country, what the coal mafia, the load shedding, the companies going bankrupt. Like, I would love to see that. I almost want to say we need to remember when apartheid ended
I was
under
two.
truth. Hey, okay, yeah. Well, I don't remember this either. I just read about it later in my life. It's not like I remember this from when I was a kid, but um,
Yeah.
the Truth and Reconciliation, and everybody who was who either hurt someone in apartheid or blah blah blah, they had to be totally honest about who they killed, where they buried them, and they were literally like doing this to help parents figure out like where their kids are, because they saw
Yeah.
their kids, they went somewhere, they never came home, you know. And I almost want to say, like, considering we've almost lost, and that's not even all of it, Matt. In 2022, it was reported that every year corruption costs us almost 240 billion. So every 4 years, we lose a trillion,
Yeah.
right? So that's 2.5 trillion rand, bro. If um, I mean, now we have to beg other countries for money. We have to like ask them for money, like, please help us. We can't afford our teachers. We need help. We need this. But it's like the people who are begging for the money are the ones who literally stole it. I think. Like it's not fair. It's not fair to an entire generation of kids. I think we have 1.3 million students in this country, right? 67% of them do not have decent schooling.
Yeah.
67% of them. And that is about 860,000 kids. And that we wouldn't even have to have built all of these schools.
If the
We
government,
just maintained what we had.
look, the way I see it, governments will always steal. Obviously, it was excessive what our government did, but at least why not allow private investors? Because they're there. Why not allow them to build schools? Like, why must they jump through all these hoops like everything else?
I think they look, if you do it right, education is very profitable.
Yeah.
The state, they're stupid by not seeing this country as a business that can generate money, that can um it's stupid. It's really stupid, man. It's like um I don't get it, man. It's like you've got ESCOM, you've got all these businesses that can generate billions of rands. I mean, we have a lot of gold, we have this and that, but yeah, but look, if you have to privatize it, then do it. But look at what happens when people privatize stuff. That's even worse. I mean, how expensive is discovery?
Well, look, with the same coin, look at it as what state-owned company is successful?
You mean globally or just us?
Us.
Us. Well, I'm sorry to say, but there was a time when it was profitable.
But right now,
It's
if you
not
compare our
impossible to
private
make it profitable.
if you compare our private companies to our state-owned companies, like there's a vast difference because business people can run businesses, governments cannot. They've proven it.
Well, I mean, listen, but I've seen. You know what I don't get? But you see, the system gets abused. It doesn't matter if it's private or whether it's government. Okay, because if you look at government hospitals, right, 20% of all the doctors in South Africa have to look after 80% of our population, brother.
Yeah.
That sucks, brother. 20%, 80% of the doctors in private hospitals only look after 20% of the population. Get all the pharmaceuticals and the antidepressants and the this and the that and all this shit they just give forced down your throat. It's almost like become unethical in that way, in my opinion.
But look, like antidepressants and those medications, they're for wealthy people. Like the poor don't get that access to medication. They just live and deal with it.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's not as if well, most of the people I know are massively depressed, massively stressed, massively, all sorts of, and they're all like have a little coping mechanism. Pilletjie vir dit, 'n pilletjie vir daai.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't care if you are the best psychiatrist or whatever you call them in the world, unless you are not testing, see people's blood and like doing all sorts of tests. How do you know that you're not making that chemical imbalance worse? Take my daughter. But my daughter is getting a reward on Friday. And I changed the
Yeah.
schools, remember? I just
Yeah.
got a thing today. She's getting an award for the biggest, for the most progress in the class. And her
Yeah, look at
previous
that.
teacher was like, "We got to put her on Ritalin. We've got to do this. I'm not coping with your daughter. I'm not coping. I'm not coping. I'm not." And look at now. All I had to do was just say, "Fuck you guys. I'll put her in another school if you don't like her." Simple as that.
It sounded like that
And my
teacher needed to
child
be
is a
medicated.
different child. Right?
It sounds like that teacher needed to be medicated. She couldn't cope.
I think she was maybe.
Makes sense.
I mean, when you're a teacher in a private school, you only have like 20 students in your class. I mean, how difficult can it be? Like you want these little robots who just don't make a noise, they don't make a peep. I had to bite my tongue with that woman. I was a few times. I just wanted to tell her to fuck off, bro. Jesus, I was so like really. I'm so impressed how I kept my cool with that lady. But anyway, so let's hope that some of these stuff like just gets better, bro. Because at the end of the day, corruption got us here, and
Yeah.
I mean, look at these immigration trends. Like, apparently in the Free State, people don't have water for like weeks to months, and we've got a whole. Where are people going to move to eventually? Eventually, it's just going to be like we have these houses, we've got this, but we've got no water. Uh, we've got no water, no police, no this, no that. But the politicians will be driving around in their X5s and their big Mercedes. Like, you know what? Why should they give a fuck? I say if the unemployment rate gets 5% worse or 2% worse, half the salaries of people in parliament,
Yeah.
start halving their salaries. Sorry, guys. Like, you know what? People don't have food to eat. Crime is out of control because people's livelihoods are fucked. We, yeah. Why must we keep paying for their problems?
Well, all those trillions as well that were stolen. If it was just invested into proper jobs in government, it would be a completely different story as well. Like everything would be running so much smoother because government's understaffed. It's a select few that make a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, say for instance, like to build a nuclear plant here in South Africa is going to cost about R1 trillion, right? And now we have to make a deal with either the Russians, I know the French want to come in, but it's like R1 trillion project. How nice would it have been if we could pay 500 bill and bond the rest, pay it off over like 30 or 50 years or whatever, instead of like what now?
Yeah. No, look, if a nuclear plant is built here, it will be 100% owned by another country. 100%.
Yeah.
And what say do we have over what they can charge and everything then? You know?
Yeah. And these guys have the audacity to blame it on white privilege, on fucking Jan van Riebeeck. And like, how do people not know that this Costa? How do people forget? How do you forget during? Sorry, I don't. You know what? I don't mind Jacob Zuma. I think there was a time in South Africa where he was a fucking hero, right? And he truly is. But 1.5 trillion during the last 5 years of his presidency, brother. 1.5 trillion rand gone. And it's not someone else who said it. It was the ANC who admitted that. Like, we're going to tackle corruption. I'm sure he had to make that speech because if you do a little bit of a deep delve, I love having AI. Like, if you research this stuff, like Hillary Clinton was on his case. She was like having him investigated. Apparently, because of his relationship with Gaddafi, that Gaddafi gave him like a couple of 100 million or something, and they were like investigating him, and they were very, very. We were in deep shit during Zuma's time, brother. And a
That
lot of
was
people
the
don't
arms deal.
I don't know. I think was that during, but that was with the French,
I'm sure Gaddafi was involved in the arms deal.
isn't it? I don't know about that. I'll research it a bit.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, 1.5 trillion, brother. 1.5. And that's where the racial tension started in this country, was when, because during when Mandela, I was small, so it was just the way I was observing the world, right? But
Yeah.
I think 94 was tough, and when we won the World Cup in 95, it was like the whole country just like accepted each other for a long time, brother. It was like, and I grew up in Joburg, right? Joburg and Cape Town's very different in terms of how black and white people get along. In Joburg, you almost don't even notice that there's a difference. The way we communicate with each other, it's like, it doesn't matter if it's a petrol attendant or one of your stinking rich friends. Everybody like has the same vibe. You know what I mean? You don't pick it up there as you do here. I don't know if it's still the same. I left Joburg like 13 years ago. But the minute I came to Cape Town, I'd be the same with everybody. And when I used to greet black people, they sometimes used to just give me like this dirty look. Like, I'm like, fuck, people are a bit different, you know? And I didn't see it as black people are different because Cape Townians are different. You guys don't greet people and um, just talk to anybody like we do in Joburg. Joburg and
No.
Cape Town's very different like that.
Yeah.
And it's not that Cape Townians are assholes, or it's just that we've got enough here to keep ourselves busy. We don't have to go and bribe mates every night on a Friday night because we're bored and there's nothing to do. And, there's a lot more to do here than in Joburg, except for nightlife. Nightlife in Joburg is much better. But, I find it, yeah, it'll maybe be good if people start talking about like the stuff that actually made us get into this situation that's got nothing to do with race. Nothing.
Look, I went to school in the New South Africa, you know, and I didn't see color, you know. Like we were all just friends playing together. Like through normal school, high school, there was never an issue of race. It was more coming from parents, I guess. Even though I wasn't exposed to anything like that, I do run into people these days every now and then where they're born 93, 95, and if you question them, you're a racist. You know, it's just a defense mechanism people are using when they don't actually have valuable words. You know, it's like if they can't win an argument, they throw it out there.
I think that if Donald Trump also dismantles this media houses and he places not freedom of speech restrictions on them, but blatantly lying and blatantly race baiting, making things racial instead of just addressing the problem. I think this whole Black Lives Matter movement caused was a very anti-white movement. Um, there was a lot of racism from that side aimed towards white people, white privilege, while everything was white supremacy, all that. So the
Mm,
world seems to have forgotten about white people now. Now they hate the Jewish people and the Russians. So, well, I think what Russians are white, eh? What are they?
they're
Do
white.
they classify as white? Or they're just Russian?
No, they're white. Some of them look like Eskimos.
They're kind of Asian as well, don't you think? Like, I don't know.
Depends. Like the Russians from Moscow, they're very much European looking. The
Yeah.
guys further north, and closer to China, then they start looking a bit Asian.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm telling you now, brother, I think when the narrative started, it was just a narrative. It's not, it's just a narrative that dumb people in politics like to ride off, like Julius Malema, like, a few of the guys. They never come with ideas. Have you ever seen Julius Malema? He likes to criticize everything and point out everything that's wrong. He's very good at that. But have you ever heard him like give a solution to something? Like, what's your plan? Like, what's your plan? Has he ever
Well,
given a
look,
plan that you can remember?
the way the media is in South Africa as well, I don't think they would actually advertise anything good that Malema says. You know, he's always been the villain, and whatever we see about him, he's always causing a stir. I'm sure he does say some good stuff. That's why he has the following he's got. But yeah, I think most people are just exposed to all the negative with him. Like, look, I don't support the guy. I don't like the way the guy acts. But yeah, I think with SA News and stuff as well, you have to always think about the other side, of the coin.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think there's going to be a massive anti-racism thing, but it's going to apply for all races, and I won't be surprised if a few black people get cancelled for shit they said, bro. It sounds
Look,
crazy today. Sounds crazy. I'll give you that, but I don't think I won't be surprised. Like really bad, heinous things. Like I want the blood of an Afrikaner, or like white people are all Nazis, white supremacists. That hate speech that they get away with because I don't know. I kind of like have my own theories on why if you allow a black person to be racist, I find is more racist than actually taking them on about it.
mhm. Yeah, look, it's people with that kind of mentality. There's no point even taking them on because there's no logic to their arguments.
Yeah, I mean, it's blatant racism. It's not even like it's almost like the God-given right. You know what I mean? And it's all just the narrative that's allowing you to do that. It's
Mm,
and that narrative is going to be dismantled. It was basically and a lot of it stems from people who watch CNN, people who watch these mainstream media things, um, and the scary part of it, a part of it that I don't like, bro. So I mean, here in South Africa, we've probably been used to it for longer than other countries. But I think white people are angry, bro. Not in South Africa necessarily, but if I look at Poland, Germany, like, I see there's now a narrative starting to form that Hitler was actually a hero, was a nice guy. He had no choice, and
mm,
that the narrative was turned against him. And if that shit starts happening, and people, it's like, did people become that way, or did they have no other choice? Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
if we look back now, it's so stupid, so unnecessary, and I just hope that this divide was caught on time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just hope it got caught on time, that it doesn't go the extreme. Because left, it was like, brother, it was left to the point where they're like doing sex change on fucking 6-year-olds. That's how far left it went, right?
I
What
wonder if
happens
we're gonna.
was, because
Yeah.
it's a pendulum there. So that pendulum went high that way, brother. It went like there. And that thing, if it swings back, I don't want to live in a world like that. Like, that's going to be bad.
Well,
I
look,
think,
also with the whole LGBTQ and the woke community, people were also identifying as different races. Like, how does that work? You know?
I don't know. There's some scary narratives running around out there, and people are, I think, especially because they were calling Donald Trump a Nazi or Hitler for so long, that people actually, because in certain parts in the world it's illegal to research or to talk about the Nazis or to say anything good about Hitler. It's literally
Yeah.
illegal, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when people don't give a fuck anymore?
Well, look,
People are
freedom
literally,
of speech.
because they kept saying Trump is Hitler, blah blah blah. I think they had a stat the other day. Let me Google it. 20% of America thinks that Hitler was good.
Well, look, what is it?
Okay,
60% of America's uneducated. So,
that's true. One one out of five people don't think Hitler was bad. I was watching a video the other day where these guys in America with Nazi shirts on are literally, instead of fighting these far left boys, these youngsters, they're saying, join us now. It's now it's now time to join us. No, but I'm not like you. I'm not racist. I'm not this. I say, "But don't worry. In a few years, they're going to come for you, and then you're going to become like us. Join us. Just join us. You'll see we're brothers. We're not like bad people. We're." And I'm like, what the hell is happening, bro? It's like, you know, I just hope it was caught on time. That's all I'm saying. Because
mm,
that pendulum went high, the left. It went high. It went way extreme to the left.
yeah,
And especially the LGBTQ community. I mean, what happens when people just don't care anymore? Like, they don't care if they beat you up. Like, they feel you deserve it. You did this and this to kids. You did your strip shows for them. You taught them how to give blowjobs in school. You took my rights away as a parent. You enjoyed it. You ridiculed me. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
people are gonna go, I just hope it didn't it didn't like cause more like mental illnesses than what was necessary. There's I just but and I look one thing that I think is good is they're going to bring God back to school. They're going to
Yeah, I was gonna say,
teach kids about God again in school and family values.
I think if
Um,
there were more Christians out there or God-following people, there would be a lot less of this because in no Bible they speak about this LGBTQ and identifications and stuff like that, you know.
Look, I mean, if you listen to the history that people did about Hitler now, right?
Yeah,
You know, after World War I, there was hectic sanctions on Germany for starting the war and destroying so much as they did, that they weren't allowed to basically have a military. They were economically suppressed in their own country, and it
yeah.
wasn't like they were being suppressed by the Jewish people, but Jewish people were very successful in Germany. So once again, I see Hitler more like a EFF kind of party, talking about inequality, talking about this, talking about that, and he got the people round up. But the difference is that according to the research that I haven't done research, I'm just looking at content people put out there. And these are pretty clever guys. They've got huge reach, bro. This is a reach like maybe 7 million people who follows this guy. He's not like a guy like me who only has 30,000 followers. He's huge.
Mm.
He's one of Andrew Tate's mates. And he's an Arab. And he's like, Hitler's a hero. The same thing, the degeneracy, LGBTQ in the cinemas, in plays, also children being kidnapped, child trafficking, all that sick shit. Um, and exactly the same story, bro. And it started a world war. While the frustrations of was probably part of it.
You know, with you talking about this now, like it reminds me as well of right now what's happening with all these Somalian guys that own these spaza shops. Have you noticed there's been so much bad publicity about them lately? Like they found a meat shop that was unsanitary, and there was chips that were had poison or something in it, and people were getting sick and died. And they're literally now coming up with a law. I think it's where of all the spaza shops, 20% is allowed to be foreign owned, and the rest has to be South African owned. Like that's like the
Yeah,
Germans and the Jews.
I don't understand why they must make it that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
brother. Get your fucking papers. Be a legal immigrant, and you can open your business. You can you can pay tax.
Yeah,
Those guys don't. I think it costs the state like 50 billion rand a year that they don't get tax in, bro.
yeah,
That's 80. That's what do we work out here? That's 80 schools.
yeah,
It's 80 schools.
yeah. Look, when
And you live in
these sponsors,
a real built with 500 mil.
look, with the spaza shops and raw stuff, they're paying VAT when they buy their products and that kind of stuff. Like, there's definitely some tax involved, but the VAT that they're charging on their items that they sell, that's not going to the
The
government.
cash and carry stores. Do
Hmm?
you think those are legal immigrants or legit businesses?
That's that's hard to say.
No. That's I don't think they get these products very cheap. Um, no, I don't think. I think it's a whole. I did a lot of research on it because I actually made some content on it, and it's like these little. It's a community, brother. It's a
Mm.
multi-billion rand industry, 800 billion or something like that. It's huge,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and it's tax free.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is.
So
It's absurd.
yeah. But the thing is, like, why does it need to get so out of hand? Why must it like get to the point that we are where we are now before they do something? I mean, then it's also like, is it really fair? Like, did you see all those restaurants they shut down?
Yeah, I saw, what was it? There was one in the news, Tang in Joburg, where they
Yeah,
found, what was it? It was like five people that didn't have their papers or something.
yeah.
And I actually know one of the partners of that business. And he said it was a complete lie. It was one person that didn't have their things in order. When they employed them, they did. They had the right papers. And then obviously expired. They didn't renew it in time. Also because of delays from the government side. And then they blew that whole thing out of proportion.
It was just a publicity stunt for them. And then after that, um, it's like they went on this rampage, like restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and good. It's all good and well, but I mean, small businesses are already struggling. They'll close those businesses up in a wink, right? But the spaza shops, it'll cause more poverty if they close the spaza shops and arrest the spaza shop owners compared to a restaurant in a mall that also employs a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I saw some of those screenshots from that restaurant that you're talking about. What's it
Yeah.
called? Tang or no? I'm talking about
Yeah.
the other one. The other one was called Ball or something with a B, I think. But the screenshots of the managers, they were just finding those waitresses left, right, center for everything. It was a bit
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it was. But at the same time, we do have a big problem with illegal immigrants that's here.
Yeah, yeah. And imagine if they start semi-migrating to the Western Cape.
They're here,
We
dude.
do have a lot of illegals here, I think. What do you think?
Yeah.
We do,
Yeah,
actually.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, um, I was also checking today. Well, listen, but I want to chat to you about. I was actually been wanting to chat to you about this for a while. Um, how do you feel about these people who hate Airbnb so much?
It drives me crazy.
How do you
You
feel?
know,
How do you
like,
feel about the Airbnb thing?
I look at it as a way for the middle class to make some extra income and actually better their lives. And because government now has seen that they've been doing so well, they now want a piece of the pie. They want to control it. It's insane. And Airbnb, it doesn't affect our occupancy rates or anything like that. Yeah, fair enough. There's quite a few Airbnbs around in Cape Town, but they're permanently full, and that brings in tourism as well. So it makes no sense to me.
How long has this Airbnb thing been going on now? About 4 or 5 years?
It started in what 2013 around there, but here in Cape Town, it only started getting big. Yeah, I'd say 7 years ago. That's where it kind of started here.
So, do you do you own any Airbnb units?
Managed. Yeah,
No, no, but do you own any?
I don't personally own any Airbnb units now.
Okay. Well, that's good because neither do I, but I still think that it's a necessity to have it, and I think it's good if it's uncontrolled, right? And I'm going to tell you why. So they are enforcing. I think I sent it. Um, they are changing they are making it a bit more regulated now, with zoning and all sorts of stuff. But before we get into that, there's a few things that I'm all for it. And anyone, look, you just have people in the world, they just don't, in Afrikaans we say it, hulle gun niemand niks. They it's like
Yeah,
any success or any joy anyone has pisses them off, right? You get people like that in the world. And listen, what before Airbnb became big, right? Where did people go to sleep? Tourists.
hotels,
Hotels, right? And how many people own hotels in Cape Town?
a handful.
Like, let's say 100. Let's see if we can Google it. How many hotels? Let's say how many hotels are there in Cape Town? Okay, so there's 25,000 Airbnb units apparently, or is that it doesn't. Okay, 468 hotels. Okay, so that varies from big and small. So we can say that there are a few hotels that one guy owns, or a group like Sun, those guys.
Yeah,
I see it as pretty fair way of distributing wealth, right? Or an income where 25,000 people, let's say 20 to 25,000, maybe a little bit less, but they gain from the Airbnb industry, right? Would you say that's fair?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely not.
So, I beg your pardon,
No, look, I wouldn't say that's fair.
but if we had to, for instance, do something to harm the Airbnb industry, or we do something that you know we can maybe regulate it more and say like, listen, you can have like 5 properties or 10, or because apparently there's some people who own like 100, which is quite a lot,
Yeah.
right? Apparently, okay, that's according to that ex 5FM DJ guy, the fucking idiot. I couldn't
Oh, yeah.
find that information anywhere. But if Airbnb wasn't there, can you imagine how much money those 460 hotels would have made? How many more hotels, considering you're making so much profit, would they have built? I mean, how many
More,
Radissons are there in Cape Town?
a couple. I know there's Ras and Red, I think Blue.
So that's
There's a
my point
couple.
I'm trying to make. They'll always build more because the opportunity is there. But then you're
Yeah.
taking away how many opportunities from over 20,000 people. And everybody thinks that these people who own these Airbnb units are all these multi-millionaires. They're not. They're just people who could barely afford it and they rolled the dice and they won, right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand why it's such a. I mean, Sea Point, Camps Bay, Clifton, since I was at school, was where the rich people live. That's how
Yeah.
I remember those suburbs. Now all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh, it's unaffordable. Nobody can afford to live there." It's always been like that, hasn't it?
Always. Yeah. You're right.
And Cape Town is not ridiculously priced. I don't think it is. I mean, there's units for 1.2 million. I mean, how much during COVID, Standard Bank took some of their commercial buildings, converted them into residential units, and sold them for under a million, if I
Yeah.
remember correct. I think they were like 995 or something. I mean, there's been numerous opportunities to buy in Cape Town this last 4 years, and people are complaining that they can't buy them. They don't. I don't think they realize that it's the interest rates that's stopping them from buying there, not actually the prices of the properties.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
You're
what I
right.
think the mistake people are making here. But do you want to hear how they're going to regulate this shit now?
I read a bit of it, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So the okay, so obviously the one that makes sense is that there's going to be now zoning laws, right? So if you want to Airbnb, it has to be in a certain area. Now I can see that just pushing up Airbnb and rental prices even more, if not property prices to buy. I mean, the more you can spread it out, the less of an impact it's actually going to make on a suburb. If I'm reading this right. Um, so if you have a special area, you're going to have to get permission. So I assume if you're in Cape Town, you can go mall. Okay. And then they're going to cap the amount of days you are going to be allowed to rent them. So the proposed caps, they're limiting short-term rentals to 90 to 120 days annually. How many days a year would you say these properties are? What's how many days would you say that's enough? I mean, those are the days that matter anyway, right? 90 to 100 days.
Looking at the stats, like if you take Globek for example, the average property in the area's occupancy is 80% a year, or over 80%. So they're busy.
All year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if they limit you, okay, so maybe we must start a campaign. We'll gain a few clients, but we should maybe like start a campaign where people that own Airbnb say, "Fuck you. Well, you don't need to." This is a government overreach, like
Yeah.
saying you only allowed to do this and that with your property. Like, no, 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 no. Sorry, I'm sorry. Like, this is good for the neighborhood. People come here with a lot of money. You guys need to build more houses. Stop
Th-
over managing what you've got and build more, like a lot more. Get away with all these red tapes and help developers get their stuff approved quicker. You're too full of shit.
Look, these successful Airbnbs as well, they're not aimed at the poor. You have to have quite a lot of money to stay in them. And even if they weren't Airbnbs, to rent these places, like on the beachfront, for example, you'd be
Yeah.
spending 20,000 Rand a month rental. Like, there's not a lot of
Yeah.
people that can afford that in this country if you look at it as a whole. To take those kinds of properties out of that long-term rental market and keep them at Airbnb, they're not affecting the majority of people. They're not.
So I think somebody needs to start telling people, like, listen, brother, these are areas where rich people have lived forever, right? You are
Yeah.
poor, I'm poor, I can't afford to live in Camps Bay or Clifton or anything like that. But I'm not going to attack a whole suburb because I can't live there. or I expect them
Yeah,
to lower their standards so that I can worm my way in there. You know what I mean? It's like those people earn a ton of money. They're billionaires, you know?
yeah,
I think there is, however, for the average Joe, you do bonds, right? Bond origination.
yes, yeah.
I thought of a loophole for it to help people actually, what would you say is the average people make per month on these units, Matt?
Airbnb wise.
Yes.
Well, look, I can talk about Bloomberg stats. Obviously, Atlantic Seaboard's like crazy, crazy, crazy. But in Bloomberg, a beachfront apartment you can look at around 40K. A good Airbnb, 40K
Okay.
a month.
Is that what you make out of your Airbnb unit?
A good month.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that means if you have 4 fully booked months, right? Like 120 days, you're walking away with about 160K.
Uh, for 3 months, 120. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the rest of the year, you are forced to rent it out on a say for instance the rest of the days of the year.
Mm.
So what if because how long do you have to have a permanent tenant before you can apply for a bond?
So
Buy
they
a
actually
second
changed the
property.
they changed the rules recently. So they look at future income now. So there doesn't even have to be a lease in place. The banks do consider future income.
Really? So what
Yeah.
does that
Like
mean in terms of future income? Is that if you have a if you even if you don't have a tenant?
so basically, look, I've just seen the notices and I went to one training session about it. And basically, if you are fully capped, say you can afford a place for 1.2 and you've bought a place, you own it, you're paying your bond, and you want to buy a second property, they will look at 80% of the potential rental income of the next to add to your affordability. So your next property you might not be able to buy a 1.2 million rand property, but you could buy say 800,000 rand or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So but then 80% used to be 70% as well. So they've upped that by 10%.
That's different. That was with actual rental income that had to have a proven record. So when applying for a bond, you would actually have to go to the seller and say, look, can I get a copy of your statements and your lease just to prove to the banks that this is the income that is going to be generated?
Okay. Look, the reason I'm asking, Matt, is you know that the banks don't consider Airbnb as a disposable income,
Yeah.
right? So, what I'm thinking, if you get a tenant for 8 months, you rent it out for 8 months, you get a guy from one of these digital nomads who pays you like 5 or 6 grand more per month just because he's not going to live there for a whole year. It's a short-term lease, so they pay a little bit more. Okay. Do the banks consider those guys as disposable income if you've only got an 8 month contract?
They want to see how they used to work. They want to see a track record. So it doesn't matter if it's more than 6 months, they were happy with that.
Okay. So, so if you were to rent, you buy a unit today, you're a youngster, you want to get into the real estate market, you have your Airbnb, you'll see where I'm going with this now. So
Mm.
you buy this unit, you start Airbnb-ing it out, right? You make your 160K, right? You get your tenant in there, like a short-term lease for 8 months, because you have to have an income for those 6 months, right? Or 8 months. You're going to lose money if you don't. You
Yeah.
rent it out furnished, blah blah blah. But then instead of Airbnb being it all year, then if you want to buy that second unit, you can use that rental income as disposable, as a, like you say, future income. But you
Yeah.
can buy that second unit with your tenant in place, and then by the time the new season starts, that property will register. You Airbnb that out for 90 days, both of them, and then you hold both of them on a short-term lease again for 8 months, and then you just rinse and repeat that every year. And then I think eventually you'll be making enough money, like maybe in 5 or 10, maybe 4 years, you'll be making enough money on your rental, on your Airbnbs, that you can buy units cash after that.
Yeah,
Probably
if you
not
put the
able to
money
buy
away,
them cash, but
you could
I
put
think
down big deposits.
it'll be actually quite cool to try that. But yeah, I don't know why they want to. I know that all these woke cities like New York, California, and all these bloody village idiots who ran their cities into the ground also
Cape
targeted
Town,
Airbnb. Right?
Cape Town, we're
Yeah,
heading there.
but I mean, like, what the hell? I mean, New York's problem as well. They started to only develop for the rich, 40
Yeah,
million, $20 million, like huge buildings, and eventually it got to the point where people like us, who aren't poor necessarily, but we're not multi billionaires and millionaires and shit. We're just like normal people. And those people got priced into, even the rentals got priced to a point where they couldn't afford it. They can't afford
yeah,
it. But instead of building more cheaper houses, they want to build all these fancy, fancy places. Which I think then obviously you're going to drive up all the prices. Your rental prices are going to go up because New York's also quite a hectic tourist destination, right?
yeah.
And then taxes and levies, brother, on Airbnb units.
It's just a way for the city to pull in more money.
Listen to this: taxes and levies on short-term rentals ensure fair contribution to municipal revenues, sorry, similar to hotels. Like,
But people are still paying their rates and taxes.
yeah,
If
I
they
must tell you,
Airbnb it,
The
yeah,
Western Cape's rates and taxes on average is probably a third of what the rest of the country pays.
yeah,
Our,
yeah,
our
you're right.
rates and taxes already, we get a good deal on rates and taxes, right? We are very,
Yeah.
very cheap compared to the other guys. But you know what? Like, I think, man, I don't know about if I like this, man. Um, it just feels like there's a knee-jerk reaction to keep people happy who get pissed off about everything, bro. I mean, yeah, and I mean, if you look at our do you know which? I did a little bit of research here as well. But the vacancy rates in other countries. Remember we discussed that just now.
Yeah.
The price range with the lowest vacancy rate, right, is the luxury market, 12,000 to 25,000 rand a month.
Mm.
The vacancy rates are only 4.5%, brother,
Yeah.
and it was 3.5%. 3,000 rand rent or less, vacancy rates 10.97, basically 11% vacancy rates. The vacancy rates used to be 1.5%. Why do you think that big jump?
Sure. I can't say.
Like 10%, 11% of the cheapest properties you can rent is vacant. And the most expensive properties you can rent is not vacant.
Look, I think the people in that price gap, the 8 to 9,000, um, they're earning so little now that they can't actually afford to stay in those places. That's why if you look at the cheaper rentals, like 6 grand and under, that's like 100% occupancy. Those places aren't empty.
Yeah. But I mean, this is not just the Western Cape, eh? This is the entire South Africa.
Ah, yeah, sorry. I was talking about Wasting Cape.
Yeah. But that's insane, brother. It's insane. Like, why? Yeah. I just, I just wish they could just let people do their thing, man. Like, just normal people sometimes. We just, most of the times, we just took a chance. They heard Airbnb does well, bought a little place. Fuck, it worked. That's that's good investing. That's clever investing, brother. You don't catch those guys drinking themselves to death. You know, these guys, it's a high maintenance investment. So these guys have to look, it's hard work as well. Other
Yeah.
than student accommodation, it's probably the highest labor intensive kind of investment.
Yeah, no, dude. Let's not even go there.
Well, thank you for popping my cherry. We didn't even know
You're
what we were
very
going to talk
welcome.
about when we started. Eh?
You're very welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is literally our first podcast ever.
Mm. And you know what? You can actually take snippets of all these podcasts you're doing and then just make shorts on YouTube as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Yeah. Now that is exactly what I'm going to do. But for this podcast, I didn't even give a shit what we talked about. I just wanted to get it done, like see what we need to work, what I need to work on,
Mm.
um, and then take it from there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt like I ran out of words.
Yeah. It happens. Also, because this is it's a different experience compared to what you usually do.
Yeah, yeah. But I think next time I'm going to maybe I should just get a TikTok live going. It's I can literally choose a few platforms here to share it on, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
There's
Why not?
hopefully the yeah. Let's really say bye to everyone. Thanks, guys. If you're still here, maybe I got 0 views and I'm saying bye to myself. I'll see you soon.